The mission of FSU Coach is to prepare and equip the next generation of coaches and sports professionals with best practices and current research to enable them to pursue excellence. We have 2 academic programs, the online graduate certificate, which is 4 classes, and also a 10-class master's in athletic coaching. Our graduate certificate and master's program can be started at any time, either the summer, fall, or spring. All of our classes have the word coach or coaching in them, and they're taught by coaches for coaches.
The types of classes that we offer focus on the athlete as a whole person. We focus on the theory and practice, the research, the helping skills, even some of the mental performance behind what it goes into being an athlete. I came to FSU Coach because I truly believed in the mission and the purpose of the program.
I think I have my dream job being a head coach at Florida State, but I know there's always more ways that I can help my athletes and better prepare as a coach, so I thought joining this master's program would help me learn different ways to attack my job. If you're interested in going into coaching or joining the FSU Coach program, I would just say don't even think about it and do it.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, good morning, depending on where you're watching. My name's Tim Bankhurst, and today's guest is Wojciech and Andrzejczak. I hope I got your pronunciation close. Coach Voyt, as many will know him. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into coaching.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tim, for having me today. It all started with my passion for sports. I know that I may be a little not in my fighting weight these days, but it's always been whether it was soccer when I was growing up, later it was basketball, and when I got to university, there was an American football team starting in my city in Poznan, so I got involved in that, and I played for 8 years, and then swiftly, for actually a friend, he asked me, hey, we're starting a team in our city. Would you like to, we're looking for a coach, and, we started small, and, then later I decided maybe, I have a shot at it. I saw a bunch of Americans and Europeans doing this, and, went to the States, coached in some other European countries, and, that's how I go, and that's how I get going in coaching American football.
So what do you do now exactly?
So at the moment, I'm finished my season in Switzerland with the Vienna Jets, and I'm working as a tackling analyst for Adabus. So we're watching a lot of high school football games and grading tackling. That's right now. I'm kind of preparing for next season over in Europe.
Yeah, I want to get back to the actual coaching you do, but I'm curious about this tackling analyst thing. Explain a little bit about what you do, how that works, and maybe coaches typically think, well, I only get paid by being on a field, by coaching kids on a field, but here you are, you're getting paid to actually do analysis of a sport. I think it's interesting.
Yes, sir. Part of what we do at Adabus is we provide coaches with online consulting services. So we watch their game film, and then based off that, we grade all the tackles and all the missed tackles, and we reverse engineering the tackling plan for the week, identify some issues for the whole defense, for the positional groups, and also the individual level. And coming back to what you just said, I believe that I wouldn't say thanks to COVID, but there's the whole online presence, or a lot of online opportunities, whether it's building your own courses on some other platforms, or whether doing what I'm currently doing, that coaches can definitely expand or can definitely look for avenue to create some opportunities for them.
Interesting. Useful as well when you're in the off season, right? And just a different way to earn income. Tell us a little bit about what you do as a coach. What's your role as a coach? Talk us a little bit about, I'm sure most people won't be too familiar with European American football.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about those dynamics and how you fit into that.
Well, first and foremost, there's American football being played outside of the U.S., in Europe, and for example, Japan is also pretty big. In Europe, we mostly play in the spring. Although, like for example, the German Football League and the European League of Football, they are like in their playoffs. But most of the seasons runs through for spring to summer. So it's possible for coaches to be, for example, in a coach in Europe for the spring and then come back for high school or for smaller schools
Okay.
for the fall season. And I was recently the defensive coordinator for Vienna Jets in Switzerland. Last year I was in Denmark with the Triangle Razorbacks. Um, that's, I mean, in general, it's more like a semi-pro environment where our like national league or our senior players are like 18 through mid 30s, but like you have in some teams guys who are like in 40s playing. Of course, besides that, you have a lot of like junior programs going. But yeah, there is. I would say it's definitely an interesting option for U.S. coaches, whether the younger guys who are not who don't have a lot of commitments, that they can go like travel the world and do what they love, or some of the guys who are retired or at the tail end of their careers and hey, I want to go to Europe and coach football and see and explore the world as well. So yeah, that's
It's interesting. You talk about it being semi-pro, and I want to get back to the training and things like that, but does that mean it's a career path? Is this something that you can live on financially, or because it's semi-pro, there just isn't the infrastructure, the funding, the sponsorships?
well, and this is something we discussed already a little bit. Um, in some places, it's closer to pro, and it's some places and levels it's closer to amateur. And definitely there are some guys who can do year round and who are like hired by their clubs. In most of the organizations, you're lucky if you have like a contract through the duration of the season and some time in the off season as well. Is the career? It really depends. Like in some places as well, you get a little bit of like part time jobs, like it's part time salary. So yeah, you can definitely. There are some opportunities. Um, Sometimes you need to have like some extra like part time job like besides football. And I think it really depends on the individual case. It's not, we don't do it for the money, but like of course like if you really want to, like there are teams that can afford to bring former college players or guys who had like stint with the NFL practice squad, or some coaches also with college and professional experience. That's these guys. Yeah, they definitely are not complaining here, but it's not like European soccer or football money, right? It's not like millions of pounds or euros, right? So it's
Right.
yeah, you do it for the experience and for the love of the game.
You mentioned 1-year contracts. I think is it risky in this business where you have that 1-year contract and maybe an owner says, you know what, Voyt, you didn't do very good this year. Your team were less than 500, so no more contract for you. Time to move to another country.
Well, right now we're on thin ice. Sometimes say you make the playoffs and you think you did pretty well, and sometimes the objectives of, and this is comes down to picking the right situation. Like sometimes the objective of you as a coach, the management, and the players, you all have to be on the same page. Like there are some guys who love football and some guys some players who like football, and until both, like all the three groups are on the same page, you're not going to be really successful, because as you say, in some organizations, since it's like non-government organization, they have the general assembly, and then the players may be members of the board, so you have to be um, very tactful and respectful, and know who's actually paying your salary. But yeah, and on the other hand, if you know that, like, okay, I have a 1-year deal, I want to maximize my time. It's as I like to say, don't count your days, make your days count. And as long as you're being honest with the guys, says, hey, as you know, I'm here for this year, so let's make sure that we maximize our potential, whether it's going to the playoffs or winning a championship or just improving on an individual level or as a unit. You gotta do your best, and this is something that is very, very dear to me since I lived in Biel, the capital of Swiss watchmaking industry, right? So you definitely want to make sure that you make the most out of your time.
What is it like being somebody who has to move sometimes year after year to different programs, different countries? I imagine that's a challenge for you as an individual and maybe for your family, et cetera. Just, well, this season's over, no more contract, time to move to Poland, time to move to Germany, time to move. That has to be a challenge for you as a coach.
Well, maybe I should have started with that. Like, this probably wouldn't be possible without the support of my parents. And right now I'm in Poland, and without them, I don't know if I'll be able to do that. But yeah, I agree that, and as I said, it's a lifestyle. It may be challenging to some people, a bit nomadic. But at the same time, it depends on the individual situation, and I can do that because I don't have like any debts or etc. But if I had to like a lot of financial commitments, or like you'd have like family to support, like it definitely doesn't make things easier. So that's challenging. My God, I'm so sorry. What do we have here? Somebody was calling me. I'm sorry. It was not, not Coach Norvell. But yeah, as I said, it depends on the individual basis, and you wanna maximize your time and make the most out of the opportunities that you have.
All right, so I'm looking from the outside in.
Yep.
I'm looking at you. I've seen your resume, heard a little bit of your story, and I say, okay, what is a long-term plan for somebody like you in your position where you're in a sport that isn't as popular in your country as it is in the United States, where football is king. In your country, it's not. You talked about some of the financial challenges. It's semi-pro to some extent. Where is your ambition? Is it, I'm going to keep doing this? Is it, I want to be a head coach? I'm just curious where your trajectory is going. How do you use your experiences that you've already gained for something more?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tim. Something that I'm pondering at the moment, as it's off-season is a bit of it's a time of reflection for all of us in the coaching profession. One thing that I believe has been guiding me for last couple of years is that your head should be where your ass is. So like, whatever you are, whatever job you're doing, you want to do the best job possible. Like, even when I was, I was in Denmark, I was in, in Poland or whatever, right? I want to be the best coach for these guys, like, that I can be. And when you do those little things right, the next opportunity will come. They will present themselves. Sometimes, and we are all probably guilty of it, is looking for that next opportunity. It's, especially the last 2 years with all the like COVID and stuff. Like, it's like Coach Ambrose put it nicely. It's like juggling running chainsaws. You definitely want to focus on one day at a time, one game at a time. And I know that it may not be the the answer that you want to hear, but I would say just doing the job, the best job that you can that you're capable of in the place that you are right now. And for me, like for the last couple of years, like those things work out like naturally. Like even last year, when I was finishing my contract in Denmark, I'm thinking, hey, what am I gonna do? And then Coach Vorcel, he hit me up. Hey, I have openings for at University of Akron at the time. Like, would anybody be willing to be like analyst and help me break down film? And I said, okay, hey, I'll do that. And somehow, some way, like this year, this experience led me to the opportunity at Adabas, for example, right? So you never know where those dots will connect, and you know, whenever you get the opportunity, you want to do the best job you can.
Talk a little bit about what training is like in your teams. What is the schedule? Are they, in college, we might see 2-a-days in the off season. We might see training every day at 6 a.m. What does it look like for you and your team?
Yes, sir. So in Europe, since most of our players, they have other jobs, or they are at school or university, we practice mostly in the evenings. So training may start at, for example, 7 and run through 9:30, depending on the time of the season. You may have 2, maybe 3 practices a week. Maybe you're able to have a walkthrough in the off season. You may have also 2 practices, and we don't have, or very few clubs have like their gyms. So the players may get their weight training schedule, and they are kind of rely on them to follow that. You may do like periodical testing. Like one thing that I don't know how popular that is in Europe, is I like to employ some new technology. So we would like meet over Zoom, or I would just record some like Zoom sessions when I would go over like concepts or some installs for players, and then share over huddle, and then we would discuss it, or maybe we'd do like a quiz, or maybe we would meet over online to kind of have that teaching time that it's valuable, because that time efficiency with only 2 practices, and guys have to juggle many responsibilities. That's something that is critical over here.
I'm just taking notes. I find it very interesting. You're training 2, if you're lucky, 3 times a week, plus some kind of walkthrough before you compete. How long is your season? How many games do you play?
So that varies from country to country. For example, this year in Switzerland, our senior team, they played 10 regular season games.
Okay.
And for example, in Germany, GFL was also 10-game regular season. I believe the European League, they had 12 games, but that's a little longer. I believe that Poland had 6 to 8 regular season games. Like Denmark was interesting last year, because we would have I believe 6-game regular season like that, but they would be spanning over like almost 5 months. So there would be like two almost a bye week before our other before every other game. So it was interesting dynamics over there.
So you're training 2 to 3 times per week. Workouts are kind of do it on your own, in your own time.
That depends. That really depends. Like some guys who are more committed, they'll definitely be pushing other guys. Sometimes if they live in one area, they may go together. Sometimes, like if the club is more organized, then you have like organized team activities, or like, hey, today like the O line and D line are lifting, then we have skilled guys. But that really depends on the club and on the league.
Do you have, and even high school programs here will have a strength and conditioning coach?
Yes,
Do you
sir.
have something like that?
Again, this is something that that changes from team to team. Like even if for example, when I was here in Poland, like I knew that I didn't know that. So I mean, I have my friend who was actually committed to, and who was interested in that, and we asked him for help in that department. And so we definitely want to have somebody to help you with off-season workouts. Now, you also need to work with that person to tell him, hey, for like American football, the off-season workout plan for offensive linemen will be totally different than for DB, right? As you know now, we may incorporate, for example, some grappling and some wrestling moves to prepare these guys how to physically move their opponent on the football field, because it's one thing to bench press, but on the football field you don't have a bench, right? So we need to evolve a little bit, or like, running gassers. Like I just saw that tweet from the guy who is the Saints. Like maybe soccer is better than running tracks for American football. I'm like, hey, okay, I think we can do something here. And then if you run like off-season trainings in Europe, in some teams, if you tell, hey, today we're going to be learning how to run, working on the running mechanics, not a lot of guys will show up. So how do you disguise that work into some small-sided games, or some fun-based activity that actually these guys want to show up in their in their off season, and their time that they may be willing to spend with their families, or or their girlfriends, right?
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. The same could be said for coach development. If you put down exactly what you're going to be doing in your coach development, you may not get coaches show up because they don't want to hear what you have to say, because they don't want to hear it. So you have to present it sometimes in a different way so that the point is still made. When you look at football as a whole in these countries, what do you see are the challenges for your sport, for growth, for success, for professionalism?
Well, the first and an obvious thing is that if you want to play soccer, all you really need to have is a soccer, and maybe you need 4 backpacks and some guys, and you can play, right? For American football, like you need a whole bunch of equipment. Like for example, as the sport develops, for example, or is well established in Germany, and they have like 40 years of experience, that there was a second-hand market, so you can buy the used set of shoulder pads or helmet, right? Then, of course, there was the whole challenge of, hey, if my little Piotrek or Thomas is going to play American football, he's going to break his hands, or there's the perception that, hey, that kid is going to end up on a wheelchair. So then, as you say, there was a coaching education that, hey, you need to teach safer shoulder tackling, for example, or you need to teach them the safer way to block, or how do you manage the contact load of at practice. And then, as you say, you need to find a group of guys that want to do it. You need to find a field, which is, believe it or not, soccer is king here, right? So or football. And then the managers are like, hey, the American football, they're gonna destroy our perfectly trimmed field, so they cannot play here. And then you need to sometimes find either a local government, or some sponsors, or parents, or of course there is membership fees that they're going to finance the club to pay for coaches, or and all the buses, etc., and all the good stuff, right? But yeah, it's the game is growing, or in some places faster than in the others. Lucky for us, there's some internationals in the NFL, like the big leagues and the NCAA, and of course I'm happy that we met as Florida State University, the alma mater for both Sebastian Janikowski of Poland and Björn Werner of Germany. So you have those guys who made it, and then inclines other kids to, hey, if they made it, and I can go to college, I can have a scholarship, then those kids may try American football.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thinking now more globally about your own coaching experiences and what you've learned along the way, what advice do you have for other coaches who may be new to the profession or just want to improve, given you have a very diverse experience compared to a lot of traditional coaches? What do you want to share with them?
You know, you gotta be you. And I know that it sounds like a total cliche, but you may, of course, we all adapt. We all learn from our mentors, or from the guys we coach against. But you gotta be authentic. You cannot, and you shouldn't try to cheat those kids, because or in my case, sometimes they're like grown men. Like, you gotta be authentic with them, and they appreciate it. And as long as you can communicate and you tell them that why we're doing certain things, they are more inclined to to follow to sell what you're to buy what you're selling. It's one thing I stole from Coach Wade Phillips from his speech in Berlin. Like, we are all used car salesmen. So whatever we're preaching, the system or the technique or the drill, like, we gotta tell them, like, hey, this is the best thing since the proverbial sliced bread. You gotta sell them on. And as long as you can, there's the saying that eye in the sky don't lie. So as long as you have film and the those things, the cell phones now, you don't need like a drone to film practice. You can show them later after practice, hey, this is why we do this drill, because it shows up on game day. They are likely to follow. You definitely want to network. Like, now with the that's why we're doing this, right? But like, you have the access to knowledge, you have access to clinics, you have access to coaches, and you can build those relationships. The one thing that I'm often, maybe not guilty, but I find challenging, is that since we don't have that much time in Europe to bond with those players, that finding the time to build those relationships, also with the coaches, but true with your players, showing them that you care genuinely about them, not only on the field but also off the field. This is, I think it translates to not only football but a lot of different sports, right? So that's it. I think I have what is it? Yeah, the time management, right? For us here, you have 1 year deal. You got to prove them. You gotta use the most out of your time with the players on the field, on the game, but also, as you say, there's the window of opportunity that you have in this profession, right? Like, you can say, quote unquote, you can stay broke for as only a certain period of time. So you wanna make sure that, like, you learn from all those experiences. I wouldn't say mistakes, but like, you don't want to make the same mistakes twice, if that makes sense. You got to find perspective. I'm sorry, I had a couple of those notes there. Like, it's never too high, never too low, and it's especially when you're younger. Like, you sometimes take it on yourself that, hey, we lost today by 50. I'm no good. Or like, there's only so many things as coaches we can do. Like, sometimes that 17-year-olds don't show up for a game, or they are just humans as well. They are trying, and sometimes the result is not there. It doesn't reflect you on your worth as a human being. Again, you definitely want to make sure that you can look in the mirror, you can look in the other guys, and that they can look in the mirror as well, and they can look their teammates and say, hey, today we did everything we could, and if it's not enough, then it's not enough. So yeah, maybe these couple pointers. I have a couple ones that I noted. Like, you can't be half pregnant. And this is it's you got to be committed, and the other thing that resonates with me is that just because you're trying twice as hard, it will not make the proverbial pregnancy last 4.5 months. Like, we are all guilty of that, living in that instant world that we want results now, and sometimes it takes time. And this is one that I really, really like. It's from Wojciech, who was like Polish soccer coach. He said that, like, team building is like mating elephants. Like, there's a lot of noise, a lot of rumble in the jungle, and the results are in 2 years. And I think it's beautiful because the results are in 2 years. It's like, with team building, right? It's like a bit like elephants. It's like, it takes time, and this is. You see it in soccer, like professional soccer. Coaches loses 3 games, boom, he's out, right? Like, even though some of the professional coaches in the States, they have like 3-year deals. Hey, year 2 doesn't work out, or hey, we pay you more so you can, we get rid of you, right? And hey, I would be lucky to have like $7 million of buyout. It's of course like, hey, when do you want me to get out? But yeah, it's I don't know, a couple of these quotes. Hopefully that some people find it useful. As you say, I've been blessed and thankful for the opportunity to be in different places and interact with different coaches, and I would say you just gotta stick with it for some time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Let me ask you this in closing. I'm curious. Football programs in the U.S., whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, whether you're professional, typically you're held accountable.
Yeah.
You're expected to come to practice, you're expected to play, you're expected to work hard. If you don't, there are consequences. But you talked about the fact that you're a semi-pro team, typically. Player may not show up. Workouts are voluntary, training 2 to 3 times a week. And I can see that being, as a coach myself, I see that as being so frustrating, because here we've got to use our time that we have. You need to go work out on your own. I can't do it for you. Then you come back, no, I didn't work out today. I didn't feel like it. Or, oh, you know what? I'm gonna miss the match this weekend because I've got something going on. How do you handle that? Because for me, it must be incredibly frustrating.
Well, yes, one of my colleagues said, "Hey, you guys, you got to be masters of adapting. It's improvise, adapt, and overcome. It's sometimes, as you say, if I know on Tuesday that somebody's going to miss the game over the weekend, then I can say, okay, for example, you play free safety this week, or so and so is going to bump into corner, or maybe we can take some of our junior players who don't have a game this weekend, and they can play with the seniors. The problem starts when somebody doesn't show up, on game day, or somebody hasn't told us that he's gonna.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that as a coach of essentially volunteers who are players, right? How do you deal with the player that doesn't show up?
So again, it's on one side, it definitely falls to taking the right job, and understanding that, hey, those are the club objectives. Like, hey, we want to win the championship, so those guys have higher aspirations and they are more committed, right? But for example, if you take the job with the team that is, I wouldn't say more recreational, but they are not likely to be committed, then, as you say, there's a frustration there. It's true, it's, as I said, there are the interested group and there are the guys who are committed, and as long as you, and the worst part about it is that both approaches are good. It's that, as long as everybody's on the same page, like, hey, we're committed this year. It's not even this year. It's not even saying okay, but it's confirming that with your attendance to practice, learning the playbook, as you say, commitment to the SNC work, you can overcome. And some of the players who are there, they have to play offense and defense 1 week, for example, right? It's like high school, right? It's not at Division 1, where you have 100 something players. It's for example, if some guys need to step up and carry the load this week. For us this year, we used some of our juniors we let them play in the senior league, and then we won the championship with our junior program, the 9-man football in Switzerland. And then I was watching film, and this exact situation that happened, for example, in the final game, this player faced playing with the older guys, in the 3 weeks ago with with the NLB, with the senior team. So it benefits them. Of course, there is the case of them being physically ready to compete at that level, but as long as you have 11 guys, as long as there's I believe there's 15 guys on the roster, or depends really on the country, right? There's roster management that you can do, and you have to be aware for it. You have to plan for it. You have to ask and train accordingly. That, hey, guys need to understand and need to know off position on offense and position on defense, right? And it's just like a case of injury. What you're going to do when player X goes down, and you want to find and adapt to that. We had some problems this year when our top receiver went down and our offense wasn't. When this guy came back, yeah, we definitely had better time, offensively. Sure, if you have the financial resources, you can recruit some players from the States, or from other European countries. But then again, it's or what also happens is that you do those tryouts, and then you may pick guys not from the street, but if they had some athletic experience, you can teach them fundamentals, and they can contribute in some form on the football field, right? So there are some strategies. You can that you got to work around. And as you say, sometimes it's a sense of frustration, and sometimes like you just have to look at it and kind of spin in your mind, says, hey, it's an opportunity for me to test as a coach. Like as you said, like I had one season that COVID cut abruptly short. Like I'll be coaching for the Calanda Broncos with the Switzerland. They were like the Alabama of Clemson, and like I was thinking, hey, like our roster was so much better that I'll be calling base defense the whole game and we'll be still winning. But like it's definitely less challenging. But at the same time, like as a coach, like you sometimes look for it in the intellectual challenge. Hey, how do we solve this problem, right? As you say, we're problem solvers, like on a weekly or even practice basis or even game basis, right? Like you often find those solutions. Sometimes they don't pan out, but when they actually work, it's like, okay, well, like this guy surprised me. Like I didn't know he can play there. Or like some of those guys, when they have an opportunity to play, then they just make huge plays. Like you say, wow, it's like congrats. That's why you do those, right? So as you say, it's in essence, you probably want to take the good jobs. You don't want to take the jobs with lesser resources. But sometimes those seemingly more challenging places and situations, they can definitely stimulate your growth as a coach, as a coaching philosophy and coaching experience.
If somebody has a question for you watching in future on our podcast show or on YouTube, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can reach out on Twitter, like at Coach Voyt, and email at coachvoyt@gmail.com. But yeah, Twitter is where they can find me, and I'll be more than happy to connect and answer any questions. Also, I would encourage, there are any guys who are interested in coaching or playing overseas, I'll encourage them to do so. Like go and take your talents to Europe and explore the world. It's an opportunity.
So that was just as a reminder, it was at Coach Voyt, Voyt. And well, thank you, Coach Wojciech, for spending the time with us. And of course, if anybody does have questions, I hope you do reach out to him. Just a reminder, everybody, we try to interview somebody about once a week on this show. So be sure to subscribe and like wherever you're watching from. But on behalf of myself, Tim Backhurst, and Coach Voyt, thank you so much for watching.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Tim, for having me today.